Welcome to Powering Product Innovation, a podcast from Cognizant's Technology Business Unit, where we partner with industry experts to enable continued innovation in the technology industry.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Powering Product Innovation from Cognizant. I'm your host, Deborah Eastman. In today's episode, I'm honored to be joined by Nathalie D'Hers, Corporate Vice President of Microsoft Digital. This is the IT organization at Microsoft whose mission is to power, protect, and transform the digital employee experience across devices, applications, and hybrid infrastructure. As the first customer to a wide variety of Microsoft products and services, Nathalie's organization takes their responsibility as customer zero very seriously, making sure that new products don't just meet expectations, but exceed them. Welcome, Nathalie.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. We've got lots of great things to talk about today. But today, let's get started by tell us a little bit more about your role at Microsoft.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Like you said, I head an organization called Microsoft Digital. Essentially, we lead many of the IT services at Microsoft that help our employees be productive every day. We have more than 220,000 full-time employees at Microsoft, 100,000 vendors across 150 geos. So we have quite a broad scope in terms of responsibility. We want to make sure that all of our employees can stay productive and that the company can keep going at all moments of the day. We also support all of the guests that visit our buildings worldwide, and we have a little bit over 1 million guests that come to our Microsoft buildings globally every year. So again, the breadth and the depth of our team is pretty significant. And just like, many IT organizations over the last several years, we have gone on a journey to evolve who we are and what we do. We have gone from being an informational technology-centric organization to more of a modern AI vision-led experience-centric organization. We focus on accelerating growth for Microsoft corporate functions. We work closely with our HR team, our legal affairs team, our real estate facilities team. We work with them to understand what their vision is and then deliver a vision that aligns with their business goals and objectives. And we also run and transform our internal network and infrastructure. And then the other thing you mentioned that is a really cool part of the role that we play here at Microsoft is that we are customer zero for the company. So that means that we partner very closely with all of our product teams internally to apply our employee learnings to all of our product development activities. And then I would say last but not least, a very rewarding part of what we do as Microsoft Digital is we work very closely with customers, industry CIOs and CTOs to help them further their company's vision and their own digital transformation.
Wow, I'm tired just hearing about all the things you and your team have to do. I can only imagine how busy your days must be. And I love the word of being modern, a vision-led organization. I think that really demonstrates kind of what organizations need to do to transform their IT organization from just being an infrastructure provider to being a true business partner.
Yeah, it was an intentional shift that we made several years ago. And I think it resonated very well internally. And I think it resonates very well externally as well when we talk to other IT organizations and CIOs across the industry.
Terrific. Well, as you said, you partner with the product organization. And so tell us a little bit more about how does that partnership work to help make sure that Microsoft delivers better products?
Being customer zero is about looking and focusing and obsessing about every aspect of the employee experience. We take a lot of pride in being the first customer to deploy at scale many of our Microsoft products and services. So again, what this means is that we represent the user and the IT voice and the needs of our own organization to help shape our products and our solutions and ensure that our products meet not just our internal needs, but also meet the needs of external customers as well. And the way we do that is we have, a set of active listening tools that we use to gather feedback from our employees. We analyze the feedback we get, and then we leverage these insights to influence product design and development. And in many ways, this is how we are the champions of the employee experience here at Microsoft. One of the ways we engage with the product engineering teams is by establishing a shared vision up front. We share what we want the vision to be for the employee experience. And when I say employee experience, it's a pretty broad term because it encompasses everything from the network and the infrastructure all the way to the application experience. We align with them on our OKRs, our objectives and key results, and we ensure that we have the same objectives in terms of how we want to accomplish our North Star. And then once we've aligned, the product development lifecycle happens, and then we deploy early, we deploy at scale, we gather feedback again, and then we work closely with our product engineering teams to address the feedback that we get. And the other cool aspect of working with our product engineering teams here internally is that it means we also get to do co-development on a few areas of the product and capabilities that not only help Microsoft users, but also help customers. So our team will develop those capabilities and then give them to the product engineering team, who then includes it in the final product so that when it ships to customers, the work that we've done is also included in the first party product. So that's how we act as customer zero and how we partner very closely with many engineering teams across the company.
Yeah, it's really interesting the way you describe the range of being everything from being the IT user all the way through to the individual end user sitting maybe in a different region in a different part of the world.
And it's a good point. We're such a diverse organization, we are very global. So just from a geo footprint perspective, there's a lot of diversity there. We also have a wide variety of roles, everything from your deep, developers to research, HR, legal, the sales team. So there's also a very broad range of roles that we have to take into consideration as we're building our products, and it helps make our products stronger.
So I imagine Microsoft employees are probably the best critics as they have a lot of pride in what they put into the marketplace. So how does the product organization prioritize and really figure out which things to do when?
We have what we refer to as customer zero program managers who are responsible for creating the relationship with the product engineering teams. And going back to the point I made a minute ago, ensuring that, the product teams are aware of what our vision is, aligning with the product teams on vision, and then sharing everything we're capturing from an employee data and listening perspective to share what employees are saying about the product, the good, the bad, and then potential improvements that are needed to make our products even better and more and better for not only our employees to use, but our customers to use. Several years ago, we might have had employees who were all in an office, but today there are employees who are located in many different locations in an office, working from home, sometimes traveling if you're a seller. So we need to make sure that we're representing feedback that's coming from a wide array of sources. We use all of our telemetry and usage data to capture some feedback without having to disrupt the employee experience. So there's some, proactive mechanisms that we use internally. And then we also use some mechanisms that are more traditional, like gathering feedback through surveys or in-app feedback. We also do some formal business reviews to review some feedback. And then in terms of prioritization, I would say that, it's a little bit more of an art than a science. Yes, we need data to really quantify the ask and ensure that we know how often the feedback is provided, et cetera. But then, every engineering team works a little bit differently at times. So we need to make sure that we're communicating with the product teams in the way they communicate and in the way they think. So we ensure we know what the product team is looking for and how they want to see the data, to ensure that when we give them the feedback, it's feedback that will resonate and that will really illustrate the business impact of not having a feature, as an example. So I would say that, key for us are ensuring that the feedback that we provide is significant enough and convincing enough to warrant being a priority, ensuring that resources are allocated to the problem so that we can address the issue quickly. And then making sure that once the product team is making updates, then we quickly deploy those updates and gather feedback to see how the changes are landing with our user base. So this is what I mean by it's a little bit of an art. No two product teams work in the same way. And there's a lot that goes into prioritizing feedback and then ensuring that we have the right data to illustrate the priority.
And the benefits of that. Yeah, sure. So you're not only adapting to the different personas of the different users, the different geographies, but also the way different product organizations want to consume that feedback.
Exactly. And, it's like everything else. A lot of it goes through, the relationships that we build inside the company. We are a very dynamic company. People move around, things change. And so a lot of the work that we do is just in fostering those relationships so that we're even more effective and impactful when we deliver the feedback. Having those strong networks and connections really goes a long way.
Yeah, that's really important. Any change management element, which this is definitely a part of change management, requires that kind of championship and that relationship development.
Yeah.
So with 221,000 employees across the globe, as you described, in multiple different areas, whether they're in the office, working at home, on the road, et cetera, and multiple products, do you do big bang or is there a phased approach? How do you handle that?
It's interesting, adopting and deploying a new product across an organization as large as ours is a pretty enormous task. And we're still learning as we go, when we deploy new tools and new products, and we always find ways to do it more effectively. But to answer your question, I would say that every deployment is a little bit different based on different factors. For example, for products that have been around for a long time, or products that we have released many, many times, we have really fine-tuned the way we deploy these products, especially when the user experience isn't a huge shift compared to the prior experience. So a good example of this is, we have really streamlined the way we do Windows releases. I remember when I first started in the company, a Windows release was a big deal. There was a lot involved, both from an IT perspective, but also from a user perspective, when you went from one version of the OS to a new version. Today, it's almost a non-event. We knew we were successful. And when I say we, I mean my team and the product team, when we released a few years ago a version of Windows and people said, I didn't get it. And we were like, oh no, you got it. You just didn't realize you got it because it was so seamless. And so that's a good example where over time, we've been really able to fine tune the experience through product changes, through process changes on our side that make, something like a Windows release deployment very, very seamless and straightforward. It's very different when you talk about something entirely new. For example, when we moved from Skype for Business a few years ago to Teams, or when we recently deployed CoPilot, we had to take a very different and more thoughtful approach. So the way we do that is we work with our key stakeholders to determine what the best deployment approach is, depending on what we're trying to accomplish. And for example, in the case of CoPilot, which is the most recent one of the key principles that we were aiming for was we wanted to target roles where we knew that we knew would see a great benefit from early usage. And for us, everyone wanted to get their hands on CoPilot, but we knew that getting CoPilot in the hands of our sellers who were in front of customers all the time, who were asking about CoPilot was really the most critical, for us internally. So it just goes to speak to, the way we approach these things varies depending on the product. And for us, it's more than just deployment. The deployment is a critical part of getting our products in the hands of employees. But then the other critical part is driving adoption, which is equally as important. And for this, we have a pretty structured change management approach to your point about change management and how critical that is. And so over time, we've learned some really key lessons about driving effective deployment and adoption. One is that, change can be hard and it doesn't happen automatically. And so in some cases, employees need encouragement and guidance. I think at Microsoft, we're somewhat lucky because everyone is very excited about new technology. Everyone wants to get their hands on it early. But in speaking with customers, I know that's not always the case. The other thing we've learned is that it's important to have, buy-in from the leadership team. This is something that we implemented when we deployed teams internally where our senior leaders were some of our biggest champions. They role modeled, how they were using the new product. They talked about it to their teams, and that drives momentum. And then more people want to adopt and more people want to use. And it has a really broad-reaching impact on the rest of the organization. The third thing I would say is we set targets early, and our targets need to be measurable. So we strive to say, okay, this is what we want to get done in this period of time. And then we measure our progress and we see if we've accomplished that. In some cases, we will pause if we don't think that we're accomplishing what we need to. In some cases, we go faster if we think we're exceeding our goals. And then, as I mentioned a minute ago, we continue to learn. We make the process better every time. Collaboration is key.
Yeah, what's interesting about what you just shared with us is it's not just about providing the feedback to your product organization, but it's really understanding what it takes to deploy it in the environment, to drive adoption and all the other elements that ultimately deliver value to the end client, to your clients.
Exactly.
And so how do you codify these learnings and make those available to customers so that they can have the same experience?
Yeah, one of the things that we believe is core to what we do here in Microsoft Digital is to share all of our learnings with customers, codify, as you say. We want customers to be able to learn from our approach, leverage our learnings so that they can accelerate their own time to value. I'll put in a little plug here. We have a customer-facing site called Inside Track. So if you go to Microsoft.com/InsideTrack, you'll see we share all of our learnings about how we do IT internally. We do this through how-to guides. We have step-by-step processes. We have tips and tricks. And we also talk to a lot of customers every day about, how we do things. So I would say that, part of our mission is to make sure that we share all of our learnings with customers. We want customers to be able to adopt our technology faster, just based on the way we've done it here. And so we strive to really document everything we do or share, one-on-one with customers as well.
Great. Well, today you can't have a conversation without the two sweet letters of A and I. So that's a hot topic. Everybody's talking about it. And clearly Microsoft is driving a lot of that transformation. What are some of the ways that Microsoft Digital is applying AI or Gen AI to your operations today?
I would say that, the rapid advances that we've seen in AI and Gen AI is really enabling us to rethink every dimension of our space, from applications, workflows, services, our network, the infrastructure, devices, everything that powers the employee experience, something that we strive to think about. I would categorize the biggest opportunities into three key areas that, my team has been driving in terms of the things that we're responsible for. The first one is the user experience. We have a lot of applications internally that people use on a daily basis. For example, I go to one place to check my 401k. I go to a different place to check my pay stub. I go to a different place to book a shuttle between buildings. So there's a lot of what I would call legacy apps that make the experience somewhat convoluted. Like if you don't know where to go, it takes time to learn where to go if you're a new employee in a company. And it's a fragmented experience. And so AI provides this amazing ability for us to really collapse these fragmented experiences into something that is that is more conducive to a great user experience. And today, tasks that would require coordination across multiple tools can now be facilitated or completely automated through agents that ultimately do the work on your behalf. I like to think about, how when I complete my benefits every year, I always think, oh gosh, I have to think about what did I do last year? What's changed this year? Having something like CoPilot where I can say, hey, listen, nothing's changed in my life, right? Or this is a change. Help me understand what benefits I need to change. That really would simplify the experience. So I think that the first big area is this notion of employee experiences and how those can be radically transformed. The other one, and I touched on this a moment ago, is around business process optimization. Enterprise scale business processes, things like support or IT operations, logistics, processes that today require many manual steps and coordination. With AI, you can achieve material gains in cost efficiencies and speed and reduction in errors. So, as an example, in our space, we, in managing our network and the infrastructure, there's a lot of things that we do to make sure that our devices are running securely and properly and efficiently all the time. There's a way to optimize all this using AI, and there's a way to be a lot more efficient and effective in doing so and reduce human error. So I would say this notion of business process optimization is another great area for AI. And then the last but not least is around business insights. Across the enterprise, AI offers us the ability to empower employees and our own processes to make better decisions in less time. Today, many roles require us to assimilate a set of data from multiple different sources. And often we have to call upon, data science to make sense of the data and draw conclusions from the data. And we believe that these tasks can be made dramatically more efficient by arming employees with copilots that are specifically oriented at helping them derive insight. So I would say these three areas are core focus areas.
Yeah, it really is a massive transformation opportunity because, I was thinking as you were talking about the experience and trying to access all of these applications, and we've come a long way from having to do Command C or Command
B.
Yes,
exactly. Exactly.
It's interesting. I recently read your post on a year with CoPilot, and, Cognizant has made a huge investment as well in deploying CoPilot internally. Mm-hmm. But I think adoption tends to still be a challenge. And so I'm curious on what advice do you have for organizations to really drive that adoption and realize the benefits that it can provide?
We talk to customers about that quite a bit. The lessons that we took away from our own deployment is, one, proactive engagement is key. And what I mean by proactive engagement is, again, proactively engaging with senior leaders and sponsors early on to really elevate the importance of adoption and speed of engagement is important. In our case, we engaged senior leaders, and then they assigned a sponsor within the organization that we worked with. And having those, key leaders to work with was key in terms of driving that momentum. The other type of proactive engagement, I would say, is more around the HR, legal, security side, works councils. So the more you can engage with those teams early to help them understand what the technology is, what it does, identify any concerns that they have early, and manage those risks early, I think is key. The second aspect is identifying upfront what your rollout strategy should be. I think being agile and also having a phased rollout is critical. I mentioned in our case, we went with a role-based rollout. Depending on the different needs of an organization, some teams might decide to do something differently. But I think being super agile, understanding who would benefit the most from something like CoPilot upfront, and then collecting feedback quickly and adjusting your approach depending on the feedback that you're getting, I think is really important. And then third, and I would say preparing your tenant and preparing the data governance aspect of things is important. We have found that, having a high level of tenant hygiene and data governance was important in our case. And many companies I know are looking at that. This is nothing new, but that is also something that can help with speed of adoption.
Yeah, the data foundation is definitely something I think a lot of organizations are really wrestling with right now to get the true power out of AI.
Exactly.
One of the things I loved about what you talked about was not only the proactive engagement, but kind of thinking about that rollout from a role base. And I think I think the mistake that can be made that is not allowing adoption is this one size fits all. And leadership engagement is everybody use it. It's
exactly.
not, this is how I'm using it, and this is how it's bringing value. So I think that's a really important point to think about in terms of driving adoption is it's going to be very different for your frontline sellers than it is going to be for your finance department.
Yes. And in any typical other product rollout, we've done organizational deployments. So we would start with one org and then we would do all the other orgs, or we would do geo deployments. And to your point, for this one, the way someone uses CoPilot in sales is very different than the way someone uses CoPilot if they're a developer. And so we were very intentional about, going by role and then helping these roles understand upfront how to use the product
to their advantage.
Yeah, right away. And so we provided examples of prompts that they could use so that they could see the benefit right away. And then, as you know, right, when you start to use it and when you hear others use it and you hear others talk about the benefit and you see it yourself as well and you experience it, then it just drives a higher level of usage. And so for us, we have found that type of approach was very effective.
It really fits in that model of what's in it for me.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yes.
So you talked about senior leadership buy-in, and the other day I heard an investment analyst talk about AI is everywhere except for in the financials. And so, obviously the point of AI isn't just to have a new technology that's cool and sexy. It is about bringing additional value to the business. So have you been able to quantify some of the benefits that you've received from your deployments?
Yeah, we have been able to quantify some of the benefits, and we are trying to help customers do the same as well. So one of the things that we've used extensively internally is we have the Microsoft CoPilot dashboard powered by Viva Insights that's available to customers who have CoPilot licenses. It has a detailed view of the impact that CoPilot from Microsoft 365 is having. The dashboard provides privacy-protected insights at every stage of the transformation journey, and it helps an organization understand what the adoption looks like, usage, and then the impact on common workplace activities like meetings or email, chat, etc. And there's even an impact tab in the dashboard where you can see how CoPilot is adding value. So it'll provide estimates on how CoPilot helped your employees create higher quality outputs, how they are more efficient in completing tasks. So that's a really great dashboard to look at if you're listening to this and if you haven't taken a look at it yet. The other thing, if I think specifically about my organization across Microsoft Digital, we have an ongoing process cycle where we determine, where we're going to use CoPilot, to transform our business processes. And then we estimate upfront the benefits that we believe we can accomplish. We identified, for example, early on that there was an opportunity for us to transform how we do contact generation. We have a lot of people at Microsoft that spend a lot of time creating contracts. And so we worked on a project that we codenamed Docufy to digitize this process. And it's had a significant impact on reducing contract generation time from hours to minutes. And we all know that time is money. And so, for example, we have one of our internal teams said they are seeing 95% time savings. They say that they can reduce the time it takes from 50 hours to 18 minutes. And so that's a great example. Yeah, it's amazing. And some of the things that we've worked on is actually going to ship in SharePoint Premium. So we're very excited about that. And then, if I think about even within our own org, IT processes, we have a number of examples where we've been able to quantify the value of AI and in terms of how we've transformed productivity and security by preventing devices and infrastructure and network from being disrupted before it happens. So we can, interactively analyze and proactively address potential network issues using AI. We can troubleshoot network issues faster by graphically viewing the network device topology, showing potential issues. We use CoPilot to remediate network issues. We use CoPilot to generate 50% of our incident postmortems, which allows our employees to not focus on creating the postmortem documents, but really analyzing what happened so that we can, remediate and avoid these issues from occurring in the future. There's a lot more that we can and that we will do, but we are starting to see some real tangible benefits from the new technology.
Yeah, very interesting. I love the contract piece of 50 hours to 18 minutes. That applies to so many areas of the business.
Exactly. And if you think about just like, even in the HR space, when we create offer letters for new employees, for example, that's another area where we think there's an opportunity there. We've talked to our security team about some opportunities in their space as well. So there's a lot of places where this could be leveraged.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting about the examples you gave is there's so much noise in the market about how AI is going to displace everybody's job. And in fact, what I'm hearing, at least from you and from other clients, is these early indicators or it's just making people more productive.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen, so Microsoft publishes a report called the Work Trend Index report. In the last report that we published, there's a stat that says 70% of the people who were surveyed said they would delegate as much work as possible to AI to lessen their own workloads. And you're right, what we see is people would like to lessen their workload to focus on more value-added tasks. And I thought that was a pretty powerful just stat, right? I think that we hear there's fear in the system, but at the same time, I think people are starting to see the potential as well.
Yeah, it's exciting. I know another topic you're really passionate about is women in tech. And it's a topic I also have a lot of appreciation for. And in fact, I'll put in a plug for you. I did get an opportunity to see some of the work you've done in Women in Action. I would encourage our listeners to look for that. But what progress is Microsoft Digital making to increase diversity in your tech positions?
Great. Yeah, it's a great question. And first, thank you for the plug. The podcast series was really kind of my first stab at really shining a light on some of the challenges that women in technology face. And it stemmed from all the conversations I've had with women like yourself who have, through the years, perhaps experienced what it means to be a woman in tech. And I was hoping to provide some perspective that might help current generations to navigate their career paths more successfully. So if I think about Microsoft specifically, women in technology roles at Microsoft have seen a 25% increase in representation over the last 4 years. So we're seeing a good positive trend. And the overall population of women in tech roles grew 5%, almost 5% year over year between 22 and 23. And we've seen a 130% increase in the last 4 years. So we're definitely,
making progress.
Within my own organization, we focus quite a bit on hiring and talent development processes. And those are aligned to Microsoft, hiring and development practices. We also maintain a strong connection with several non-traditional hiring and apprenticeship programs. We have a strong partnership with Europe, for example, and we've successfully onboarded many diverse hires that have moved up in terms of seniority and contributed significant impact, which has been great to see. And then once we onboard people, we have a very robust people and culture program that includes things like mentorship and sponsorship with a deep focus on supporting and enabling our diverse communities and focusing on ongoing growth and development and visibility for our team members. I think it's important that we engage early in high schools and in colleges to really encourage young girls to go into technology, and that we retain them by really investing in them once they're in the workforce. I'm very engaged with our women employees group here at Microsoft. And I think it's really important as a leader to model inclusive behaviors and lead by example when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And I strongly believe in creating an environment where every voice is welcome and heard and respected. And I think that diversity and inclusion needs to be an authentic part of a team culture so that you are able to attract and retain diverse talent. So I think that's, one of the things that I'm perhaps most proud of in my career is that I've always really strived to cultivate that type of culture in my organization and attract and retain a diverse set of employees.
You gave a lot of great examples of the things you're doing specifically to achieve those kind of results. I think it was 130% over 4 years, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. Any specific advice that you want to give to other leaders?
I'm also very involved in allyship at Microsoft. And I think that the key thing I would say is it's important that as leaders, we continue to exhibit a growth mindset, continuing to stay aware, understanding that improving diversity and inclusion in the workplace is absolutely essential. Fostering a vibrant and innovative and productive environment is important. I think saying the words is one thing, but really role modeling that is something different. And then once everyone gets behind that philosophy, the rest becomes a lot more easier. And, hiring becomes easier, retention becomes easier. So I would say, having awareness and a growth mindset is important. We tend to be, at least at Microsoft, very results oriented. If we have a goal, we strive to accomplish that goal. And it works well for us. But I think training is also important. For example, at Microsoft, we have a training for all of our hiring managers around diverse hiring. And so we have found that has a lot of great impact in terms of recruiting a very diverse candidate pool and hiring a diverse set of candidates. So I would say, growth mindset, awareness, education, and goals are really important.
Well, we've had a great conversation, lots of topics. We talked a little bit about, Microsoft Digital's role as customer zero. We talked about AI and Gen AI and how that's transforming business and creating a lot of opportunity. And then very importantly, talking about women in tech. So as we wrap things up today, Any thoughts, any additional thoughts that we didn't cover that you want to share with the audience?
I would say, Deb, thank you so much for having me. And thank you to Cognizant as well. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today. I think this is a very exciting time to be in technology. And it was great chatting with you about some high-level themes on what Microsoft Digital is doing in the midst of this rapidly evolving landscape.
Well, thank you for taking time with us. As you described at the opening, all of your areas of responsibilities, I feel quite honored that we got your time. And if you want to do it again, I think there's still a lot more we could talk about.
The pleasure would be all mine. I would welcome that. Thank you so much.
A big thank you to our guest, Nathalie D'Hers. It was great to get her insights and perspectives on so many important topics. And thank you all for joining us on this edition of Powering Product Innovation from Cognizant. If you've enjoyed the show, please be sure to rate us, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. I'm Deborah Eastman, and thank you for listening.